Would putting hopes upon an alleged spiritual master for one's dream life result in some having dreams around the concepts attributed to the so-called God-men? Fear of death by plan and accident plays a role in media and government. Achila dreamt of flying in a small spaceship outside of our solar system. They were sentenced to die, but wasn't told why. She considered a number of reasons for their upcoming execution. They flew through a light that made them unconscious. They awoke on a hill with no sign of an enemy in that beautiful park. She looked behind her and saw a warrior with a ray gun. She told her sister, that they would soon meet there, Mahanta, or way shower, soon. They chanted "Hugh" as they filled with warmth. Her consciousness of that body was no longer there, but she was aware of that environment till it faded and she awoke. Was this dream a journey given by the living Eckmaster, or was it a projection of false hopes? Harold Klemp tries to make any skepticism about dreams not being what they seem like as an inferior act. Eckankar uses the word querent to refer to one who would question whether or not the words of our so-called Eckmasters is true. It may be true that death is just a part of our existence, but that doesn't mean that actually dying still can't be unpleasant. Scientology and Eckankar share similar ways of speaking about battling forces within us, but use different phrases to say such. Eckankar talks about spiritual and psychic forces of both Ek and Kal. Both Ek and Kal battling within. Didn't the Discourses start out with mention of a vortex of love and power working on our behalf? If Kal is Jot, Naranjan, or the highest blameless one, then it would hardly make sense to say that Ek is in conflict, unless the meaning of Ek here denotes something low that must be blamed, and that has a reason to fear. I know right well that feelings of love and power, as well as the drives to, can be part of the same states of consciousness. Is my experience real, or is the Dream 1 Discourses by Harold Klemp correct on page 196 about them being polar opposite parts of consciousness? A man with the circle of influence went to an Eckankar seminar and wanted to convey the message of Eckankar. From that point on, he was too shy to share the messages of the Mahanta and those he deemed to be part of the Mahanta with those who seemed to admire him. Could it have really been that he was not that firm of a believer? He certainly seemed to not feel anything that could be interpreted as a bond with the spiritual leader of Eckankar when he did that. He became troubled by a latter dream about not being allowed past a black door with stars on it, because he only came in his room. he only came in his own name. He contemplated on the dream and saw himself entering, saying, "I come in the name of the Mahanta." I'm not condescending, I'm just distinguishing quotes. He ended up in a lake with a fountain that others rushed to. He thought that the fountain people swam. He thought what the fountain people swam to was the Mahanta. Some might rely on God, but Eckankar wants you to feel lost without Harold Klemp, or whomever the board chooses to lead the corporation after he dies. Are dreams of Eckankar initiates the same sort as those outside the corporation? Not as far as I know. Some even adapt Eckankar's specific projections without ever joining the organization. Aside from that, there seems to be nothing unique to that path. Are dreams the same for those who treat the Mahanta and the other Eckmasters like gods, the same as those who don't? Page 197 tried to convince you that similarities are only on the surface. If ill effects are to be worked out in dreams, does it matter whether or not one is an Ekchila? Most would say no. But Eckankar wants you to think that only acceptance of its doctrine can lead to alleviation of bad karma and generate good karma that can result in total spiritual liberation. It closes a look at forces within us by saying that Eckists really know these things, but won't try to convince others of the secret teachings of exclusivity. Dream work does have an individual nature. Your experiences will always be individualized beyond that. What others share in are learned of. A man dreamt like he was just a soul looking down on a room with a lot of furniture in it. He seemed more material as he focused on the details. He sat on a couch. When he descended, he looked out the window of this new place, telling someone about the similarity between it and its parents' home, and that both of them must be plugged. That both of them must be having an out-of-body experience. Out-of-body experience is, of course, one of the spiritual experience questions that I ask my interview guest on the questions list, and the many people I've talked to. That's just a smaller fragment. How I Learned to Soul Travel is the book being plugged in Lesson 9 of the Echdream 1 Discourses. It is one of the books I have not read from the local Eckankar lending library. It recommended the idolatrous practice of calling upon a spiritual master in order to see an apparition of them. Calling Harold Klemp his master, he asked him to appear if present. He saw a spectral image of Harold Klemp that showed him that he was out of the body. He later found out that his sister joined Eckankar and had a very similar dream. That he was out of the body was his quote words. Could they both just be dreaming that it was time for them to have the roles in life that their parents had earlier in their lives? They certainly focused enough on Harold Klemp to be able to see his image without directly trying to visualize it. I do agree that the sense of fulfillment must have been individual experiences and understandings. The dream worlds are worth exploring and sharing discoveries about. Eckankar members may be more interested in such things than most, but they are hardly unique. Page 199 asks people to believe that hardly anyone would be interested in a desire of God realization before Eckankar was founded in 1965. Did anyone know of these Eckankar names, places, things, and terms before Paul Twitchell borrowed, changed, and even made them up? Evidences outside Eckankar influence for its uniqueness seem non-existent. A second book is plugged in the Eck Dream 1 Discourses by Harold Klemp. Lesson 9, Are Dreams a Purpose? I bought a copy of Paul Twitchell's Tiger's Fang recently. He was known as a follower of Kirpal Singh, one of the top few in Scientology. Read about the Chisti Sufi order under Inayat Khan. He also had an interest in theosophy and a number of so-called metaphysical societies. His interest continued as he wrote this book that is either his own experience, plagiarism, or a combination of both. Harold Klemp admits on page 199 that his experiences may never be yours. And there's dots in between, so I'm leaving out words. Why then ignore everything we have learned on the subject and take a leap of faith unto Eckankar doctrine? Faith and even belief can be good when placed right. But where will faith, in a mix of truth and lies, land us in the view of God? Letting yourself have your own experience with spiritual exercises of Eck or other religious or spiritual practices may be good advice, if the rituals are not somehow sinful to do. Only God knows how many came before and are to come. Eckankar and Islam allow some flexibility in adjusting the recommended and required rites in certain personal ways, like for a variety within them. Whatever your path, it is up to you to discover truth and its personal and universal implications. Shouldn't piety be the implications of good consciousness? If you find their ideas of truth untrustworthy, Eckists want you to learn more about alleged past lives before you judge it unreliable. Are the dream worlds only of God, or can they be psychological or even satanic? Harold Klemp talks on page 200 about how Ptolemy, Aristotle, and others held to a geocentric worldview because of their lack of knowledge, which was overthrown by discoveries of Copernicus and Galileo. The implied message is I think it's pronounced Galileo. The implied message is that Eckankar is the path of new knowledge gained by its members as the explorers. E.A. Coetting talks about black magic in that sort of way. The black magician is the explorer that finds his own guidance. Each individual to have their own beliefs, but it is true that some of us who try to be orthodox or correctly believing do consider there to be a new age threat. Orthodox and orthoprax is the understanding of the word given to Harold Klemp in his Lutheran upbringing. So he understood the terms to mean correctly believing and correctly practicing. Yet he kind of speaks against being that. Again, black magician, in Aleister Crowley's term, somebody who's kind of stepping away from that high magic purpose of, well, not the high magic purpose of developing and advancing, but away from the high magic aspect of correctly believing and correctly acting and not diverting from that. Don't the reasons to not break with tradition vary? Pride can be a reason people don't change, but I wouldn't assume that. Aren't there doctrines of old that ring at least true or truer than Eckankar teachings? Islam also teaches that a time will come where the spiritual eyes will be opened and everyone will know the utter reality of things, but we don't think we are reborn to choose an enlightening path. People have plenty of chances to gain awareness of the worlds within and the worlds without in one lifetime. Wouldn't people who intentionally are as an unintended result of some thoughts and actions keep doing it if they had future lifetimes? Wouldn't being made to forget past lives make this problem just as great? Why would you want to focus on psychological worlds that contain people without good feelings for Sugamad or God as a noun? We get enough of that out here. A lack of love is called wrath, after all. The Ecktdream 1 Discourses by Harold Klemp seem to explain why mental illness becomes more common during and after Eckankar. On page 202, it tells how Eckists, members of the Eckankar Corporation, are followers of that path, confuse the difference between dreams and soul travel. Also, outer realizations and inner realizations, inner life and outer life, get blurred and confused in many. Chelas, or Eckankar initiates, often don't remember the nature of experiences and may not even be able to tell when they are fresh. Is Eckankar a path of higher and higher consciousness till one reaches God awareness, or are these signs of it being a way to develop delusions? Most people can fantasize without thinking it is actually being visited by the one they thought about. What would happen if you told someone outside of Eckankar that you thought they were literally present during your dreams? Contemplation or fantasy? Getting crumbly and crumbly. A mother once contemplated next to her baby in the early morning. She pictured herself going through her house. She heard a rainstorm. She heard and felt the strong wind upon her. Was this a theophany, as Harold Klemp states on page 202? That, in the way that all creation is a manifestation, it must be. However, we have no sign that this was a direct communication with God. Was this a sign that she went from the physical plane to the alaklak, or invisible sphere that is the sixth plane? It is the seventh by name, because it is said to have this physical, astral, causal, mental, etheric, and soul as the lower realms to it. Most would say that the sounds of a rainstorm and heavy wind are the same thing. Was the dream reality about someone leaving her home? Vulnerable. Another mother found the dream of her 4-year-old to be of interest. She would let him dictate them to her. The child would relate more such experiences than anyone in the family. The kid told them that Harold Klemp and all the alleged Eckmasters were glittery in his inner world. This is interpreted as being their astral bodies, as it is rather that the projection was not as detailed. The kid told them of things that Harold Klemp allegedly said to him, and of a window screen being removed and put back so Harold Klemp and someone else could visit him. Were these dreams a purpose, or a child trying to realize the stories his parents told him? I would be worried about the source of the voices and the content of what my child heard. I don't have a child, by the way, but I'm saying if I had a child. Eckankar tries to program you into thinking that all such things are of the spirit. And true. What spirit? Harold Klemp says this window screen was removed and put back, as the kids said. If this is based on the parents checking it out, they should have taken their kid to a doctor and called the police. I accept that people hear and see things others don't, without it being delusion. But I would consider what I know of physical reality when acting upon them. I would consider the content and context when interpreting those experiences of others and myself, rather than merely accept and follow them at face value. Wouldn't you? Leaf in a box. Spiritual exercise. In the 21st month in Eckankar, they ask you to start the spiritual exercise of Ek with saying "you," whatever tone you want to say that in. The Ek 1 Dream Courses by Harold Klemp tells you to picture yourself being met by Wahzi, Harold Klemp, Petter Zask, Paul Twitchell, and Rebazar Tars. A space alien, turned Tibetan, that is only known through Eckankar-based claims, along a path of white pebbles to a temple of golden wisdom. I will not try to visualize any of the alleged Eckmasters as a spiritual practice. This extends towards the 3 historical ones as of 2014 and the 970 that are part of the Eckankar mythological system. One is supposed to see oneself enter a long, vast room with many there. There was actually a painting of all of them, and I think there was under Darwin Gross, but Darwin Gross being kicked out meant that some of the lineage was no longer. I think it was supposed to be like in the main Eckankar Center when it was in California. Menlo Park, I think. One is supposed to see oneself enter a long, vast room with many there. Again, I will not try to picture as many Eckmasters there as I can. I think it is just fine to see yourself being handed a box with a leaf in it. I also think it is just fine imagining opening the box, taking out the leaf, and touching it to both one's own chest and forehead. Page 203 says to touch it to your heart, then to the Tisra Till, the spiritual eye, and the master will be there. I don't believe in such a presence of any spiritual leader. God may be omnipresent, but all else is limited by space. With non-physical objects, one can picture them. Point into the chest to touch the heart, and into the head to touch the pineal and pituitary glands. The leaf is a representation of love between all who have been to the soul plane and the lesser realms of the etheric plane, mental plane, causal plane, astral plane, and physical plane. Wouldn't it be more true that these are all the same, and any experience can be both physical and spiritual? Why would one not have permanent access to soul realms till one has 5 initiations by permission of some corporation, like Ekankar, or some other hierarchy of alleged spiritual authority? I believe God will allow you to have the ability to have the physical, psychological, and spiritual experiences necessary for your development without sending gurus to travel with you in them. ECKs will do what I call the leaf in a box spiritual exercise for about 20 minutes a day during that month of their discourse between 8:41 and 9:40 a.m. on Thursday, November 27th, 2014, our solar hour 2 through 4 on of the 4th day of the 2nd month of 1436. I performed my final operation of this rite. Things got darker as I grew numb. I heard a piano beat similar to Becoming by 9 Inch Nails. I felt euphoria as I experienced life as if I was not laying on my bed, but only in the bliss wiping over me. As I listened to the music, things cleared up, and I saw a male Wilson's bird of paradise, R. Kikinaras Republica, walk down a path of small white stones on the grounds of the Temple of Ek in Chanhassen, Minnesota, in all of its splendor. It had a green tail, black head with blue on the top, a yellow stripe down its black neck, and part of its body, a red stripe down part of the rest of its black body, to its red bottom, brown among its lower body, and lavender feet. 3 shadows, and the white and gray light of midday came by. They were surrounded by a maroon cloud. They went through the Temple of Ek until they reached the chapel. There was a book with 973 pages on it. I saw that each page bore the image, physical name, and spiritual name of a different alleged Ekmaster. I only remember that Harold Klemp is Wazi, Darwin Gross is Dapren, and Paul Twitchell is Pedar Zask. Pedar Zask. Yeah, it's a difficult one. ZASKQ. When the bird finished the book, a box appeared. The male Wilson's bird of paradise picked up the box and opened it to find a blue sapphire leaf with gold veins. It took it out with its feet and touched the leaf to the center of its chest and its forehead above the eyes. This caused the bird to disappear. There were 973 leaves suspended in the air. I swept the chapel with a ruler and formed the 973 leaves into a sphere. I impressed a square on the globe to divide it into squares. Then I quickly drew a circle per degree, causing the room to disappear into blackness. I awoke energized, as if I had 3 more hours of sleep than I had. It had been a very painful morning, but I felt no pain. I was utterly relaxed and felt very aware. The dream interpretation. The Wilson's bird of paradise is as the constellation of Apis. That is a symbol of the continual quest for paradise. With its colors, it represents the variety of life and the variety of tools to deal with it. The path of white pebbles represents the clear consciousness and purity we seek in the way we want to go. The three shadows in gray and white light represent the patriarchs of Eckankar, are the only three historical Eckmasters. The maroon light that surrounded the shadows represents Rebazar Tars. The Eckankar version of the Holy Spirit of Judaism that other traditions call Garuda, Bahumanu, and Jibril. Together, they are as the stability of the constellation Triangulum Astrella, are the southern triangle. To me, the shadows and the gray and white cloaked by purple means the mixture of evil and ignorance with a spiritual side that these figures taught. The chapel is a place where Eckist worship, the 11 Eckmasters portrayed on the wall, and all the ones called an Eckmaster, except Darwin Gross, who they have discredited more and more since the August 1983 board meeting that he lost the vote to stay a living Eckmaster in. It is called a church because a common phrase they use proves false and meaningless. They say, we give them respect but not worship. The book touches upon the subject of their mythical lineage. The fact that I don't even try to come up with a more complete list of names and titles than Eckankar teaching shows that I do not ascribe to their dogmas and contest them. ECK and others, and ECK has said, oh, he doesn't worship the spirits. Well, he really worships the spirits and stuff like this, but he doesn't like that word because he doesn't want to make it seem like his path is the. Perhaps he doesn't intend to worship the spirits. It looks like it on the outside. Is that what he's saying? The leaf in the box is that initiations are within mental constructions. The blue and gold are as the Thursdays and Sundays. It are the days of the week that most of the Eckankar meetings I attended fell under. Yellow and blue are also colors most mentioned as sacred in Eckankar. So remember to go